Today we got very good news, which is the verdict of the High Court in the case that I took against SIPO, the Standards and Public Offices Commission, for their failure to investigate Leo Varadkar's leaking of a confidential document to his friend and political supporter Matthew O'Toole. The decision of the High Court is to quash that decision of SIPO not to investigate. It puts the ball back in the court of SIPO to investigate Leo Varadkar and what I certainly would strongly make the case with a clear breach of the ethics legislation. I want to thank our legal team who worked very hard over a long period of time to get us to this point. Obviously thank the judge, our solicitor Ruan McGaon of Prospect Law, our barristers Fechine McDonough and Gary Maloney for all the work that they did on this case. Obviously we're delighted with the outcome, and I think it has broad implications for the question of wrongdoing, breaches of the ethics legislation, potentially corrupt behaviour by politicians, and the role of SIPO in terms of investigating or not investigating. There is a long history to this, which a lot of people will have forgotten. This goes back to 2019 when the government was negotiating a new GP contract with the IMO, the Irish Medical Organisation, and we later found out in 2020, because of excellent journalistic work by The Village magazine, we found out that that contract had been leaked, given to Matthew O'Toole, who was friend, political supporter of Leo Varadkar, but also crucially the head of the rival organisation, the NAGP. When that emerged, we should remember that Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens closed ranks. They accepted his small apologies that he'd made some mistakes, but there was no breaches of the ethics legislation, nothing serious here. I then complained to SIPO, the Standards and Public Office Commission, for the various breaches in ethics legislation, and that was in 2020, and then in 2022 we finally had a decision of SIPO. It took a very, very long time, and their decision was to effectively accept the rationale. Leo Varadkar said in his defence to SIPO, I leaked it, yes, I admit I leaked it, but I leaked it in my power and in my capacity as Taoiseach. And SIPO's conclusion was to say, oh, he says he did it as Taoiseach, therefore we can't investigate that. And that was the end from their point of view. From the very start I felt that reasoning was extremely flawed. It is the Nixon defence. It's like, once I'm president, I can do whatever I want, it's not illegal, it's not a breach of the ethics legislation. Effectively, Leo Varadkar was saying that he as Taoiseach, but also implicitly government ministers, could do whatever they wanted, and SIPO couldn't investigate them if they claimed that I did it as Taoiseach, I did it as government minister. To be clear, SIPO never found that he did do it in his capacity as Taoiseach. They never investigated, they never said that he had the capacity to give the document to whoever he wants. SIPO simply said, once he raises the defence of saying, I did it as Taoiseach, we can't look at it any further because we're getting into territory that we can't possibly get into. So on that basis, I challenged that. I sought a judicial review at the High Court and an order quashing that decision. There's obviously a long, detailed decision of the judge, which I would encourage people to read. In essence, the crucial bit is that the judge found that SIPO did not provide adequate reasoning for why they chose to just accept the idea that he's saying he did it as Taoiseach, therefore we can't investigate it. For the reasons explained, the court has concluded that the decision not to carry out an investigation was inadequately reasoned. In the premises, the applicant is entitled to an order quashing the decision of the 9th of November 2022, and the matter should be remitted to the Commission for further consideration. The judge does make a number of interesting points about the argument that you can just say he did it as Taoiseach and SIPO can't investigate it. They go on, they make the point that this proposition was not based, or certainly not based expressly, on a contention that this is required by the Constitution. Rather, it is presented as flowing from the terms of the statute. and they say it wasn't stated by the Commission on what basis they decided this. They say ultimately it is not for this court to fill in the blanks in a decision or to propose understandings that are not apparent on the face of the report. The report must stand or fall on its own merits by reference to its own terms. What happens now is that the ball is firmly back in the court of SIPO. It should be remembered that this decision of SIPO was the first time ever that SIPO was divided, had a divided decision where it was a 3-2 vote. 2 members of SIPO did not agree with the rationale that they presented, didn't agree with the idea that they shouldn't investigate Leo Varadkar. So it goes back to SIPO. Really, from our point of view, it goes back to SIPO to investigate Leo Varadkar. That's what should now happen, and it should happen rapidly. I would point out that this whole process has been extraordinarily delayed, and justice delayed is justice denied, or it certainly has the potential to be so. We were originally expecting this judgment a number of months ago, in advance of the resignation of Leo Varadkar, in advance of the local elections. We're very, very happy to have this decision now. But I would say there is a ticking time in terms of SIPO investigating Leo Varadkar. Leo Varadkar is no longer Taoiseach. Obviously, if he was Taoiseach today, it's hard to see how his position would now be tenable when SIPO was effectively being ordered to have an investigation into ethical breaches of the ethics legislation. But in any case, he is still a TD. We don't know whether he'll stand for election or not in a number of months or 9 months' time or whatever. But either way, the people of Dublin West have the right, or should have the right, to know whether SIPO finds he breached the ethics legislation or not by the time that general election happens. So we would certainly urge that SIPO acts as quickly as possible to investigate. The final point I would make is just to remind people that really the wagons were circled by Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens at the time of these revelations. It was very clear at the time that this was very, very serious stuff. You remember the Village front page, Leo the lawbreaker. Leo Varadkar was claiming that he had legal advice to say that was defamatory, but of course then didn't take any legal action to oppose that. It was, and all of the claims that were made in that Village article all stood up. None of them were fundamentally disputed by Leo Varadkar. It was extremely, extremely, extremely bad, unethical behaviour by a man who was Taoiseach at the time, a Taoiseach at the time that then it was revealed. It was entirely inappropriate that he was allowed to continue in a senior position in government, but they all rallied around to enable that to happen. I'm proud that we and People Before Profit did not give up, just like we haven't given up pursuing Robert Troy, just like we haven't given up pursuing multiple ministers at this stage for unethical and corrupt behaviour, and we were forced to go all the way to the High Court at a potential, major risk in terms of costs, in order to try to see that basic good standards are upheld at the highest level of government. We really shouldn't have to do that. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and the Greens collectively have a lot to answer for here. They should have ensured that he was gone from government at the time that this revelation happened, meaning that there wouldn't necessarily have been a need for a complaint to SIPO, or certainly not a High Court case. Anyway, we are where we are today. It is a good day in terms of trying to ensure that senior politicians are held to account. It's a good day in terms of saying that they can't just say, I did it as Taoiseach, you can't investigate me. And SIPO should also actually take it as a good day that they should not be impeded from investigations into senior government officials. In fact, that's really what they're set up to do.